Floating off the ground when you hear that sound. Let it all out. Now get it in. Hear that sound. Let it all out. Now get it in. Feel it like a wind. You can do what you do, but stay who you been. Bitches, I hope you know I won't stop till I hit that hoe. Baby, come say hello and get your drunk ass over here.
Ah, a yard sale.
The ghetto!
You know the old
Motherfucker!
saying, one man's trash is another man's
Shit!
Dildos. Fuck out!
for Mr.
Bastard!
Oh,
Shit.
is
The shit.
Smells of shit.
Jump spray.
Open for business. See anything you like?
Yeah, I'll give you
$700
for this
flashlight. $700
For that?
Hell yeah!
This full of
It was the Queen of Zanzibar.
a queen, you say? That's right.
Hold on a second.
Fucking dead.
If you don't like it, you get the fuck out.
Oh yeah? Tough guy?
Punch a little bit!
Latino man.
What you doing? I'm having a
Sex toy.
sale. Have a look around.
My asshole!
Hey, fat ass.
Check this shit out.
pretty cool, huh?
That looks like the
Dildo.
shoved up my asshole yesterday. That ain't no dildo. It's right.
Ass rammer.
See?
Damn it!
Was I using
This shit.
wrong? How much? $5. I've only got 7. Deal.
Fat asshole!
You are one
Kick-ass.
shopper.
Look at this Mountain Dew soda drinking hat. It must have belonged to someone who was
The best drug dealer in the fucking whole world.
There's only been a handful of drug dealers in the entire history of forever.
That's right, Sponge.
Faggot!
And you're one of them.
Really? You mean it, you retard?
This hat says, hey, I'm
The best drug dealer in the fucking whole world.
and I let gravity do my drinking. This hat was made for you, boy. You were born to wear this hat.
Oh, Lawrence, this is the happiest day of my life! I think my testicles are dropping!
A perfect fit, eh?
Faggot.
Oh, thank you, Mr.
Good kick in the balls.
Thank you for bringing us together. How can I ever repay you?
$153.
All I have is...
$5.
Fuck you two, you ain't getting that.
Well, I'll be right back. Mr.
Bastard!
I found 69
$153.
cents, but maybe you could take the other
10,000.
cents out of my paycheck. What do you say?
Well, I don't know. But only 'cause you look so in that hat.
Thanks, mister.
Dick face.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Nobody really cares.
What a couple of bastards!
Excuse me,
Bitch.
but are you the purveyor of this curio stand?
Yeah?
I understand you're selling this rare novelty drink hat.
Fuck off.
Let me explain. I'm prepared to give you $5,000 for that drink hat.
Piss off, you perverted old freak.
I'll give you
12,000 condoms.
for such a hat.
I'll give you $12,000 in cash for said hat!
Sir, I'll give you
$12
million for that hat.
Smoke on the weed.
Holy shit! There he is with me
$12
million hat. I gotta get it back before he finds out how much it's worth.
Huh, my production has increased twofold. Thanks to you, Hattie.
Sponge Faggot.
Hey, mister,
Big and salty.
how's the antique biz treating you?
Oh,
Fuck that shit.
listen, I didn't want to say this in front of
Fat ass.
that hat makes you look like a
Slut bag.
Am I a pretty...
slut. Oh, well,
You're very sexy.
What?
All right, now give me
This little bitch.
back.
But Mr. Balls, you said it yourself. I was born to wear this. Shit! I don't want to give it back. I can't part with this fucking hat now. Not after all we've been through. Thanks, Mr.
Dick face.
I'll call you Hattie. And that's when you showed up.
Ah, fuck it. And you're not sexy either.
What a bitch.
Sponge bag. Just the man I wanted to see. Still playing with that shitty hat, eh?
That's correct.
Not sick of that sticky hat yet? Nope. Not even a little tired of that old piece of shit? Not even a teensy tiny bit? Fuck no! Well then, I guess you don't want to see what's in my pants.
What is it?
Novelty hats. How about this good one?
Dangerous.
The juicer? Chainsaw Grandpa. So what do you say? Your silly hat for all these hats.
Suck a big dick and go fuck yourself.
Mr.
Latino man.
I'm sticking with Hattie.
You suck at
Offer, though.
live with it.
I thought the Chainsaw Grandpa would get him for sure. I didn't want to have to do this, but he leaves me no other option. I'm gonna have to kill him. This'll
Put him out of his misery?
Macaque! God damn it! What was that noise?
Oh my God!
You have got to be fucking kidding me.
You motherfucker, you.
Please don't hurt me, Mr. Crab.
I'll do anything! Anything!
Now listen, Sponge.
Horse's dick.
I am the
Assassin.
soda drink hat, and I'm here to tell you that that soda drink hat you possess is cursed.
Cursed?
It once belonged to some guy who's fucking dead now.
What guy?
Smitty something.
Smitty what?
Smitty.
Asshole who fuck your girlfriend.
He must have been
The best drug dealer
In Los Santos. Now listen, a curse will descend on you unless the hat is returned to its owner immediately.
immediately
Immediately.
to its owner.
Yeah?
Right now.
Yes, already. I'm good. It must be returned to its owner right now.
1 hour later.
Hey, Mr.
hand job, bitch.
Sponge. What are you doing here?
Oh, I was just returning the cursed soda drink hat to its original owner. Smitty.
Asshole who fuck your girlfriend.
What? There is no Smitty.
Asshole who fuck your girlfriend.
Don't know shit.
He's buried out in
The cemetery.
How did I just did it? I would. Give me that shovel. I was there.
It was his hat, Mr. Boss. He was
The best drug dealer in the fucking whole world.
What the fuck?
Jesus H. Fuck!
Fuck off!
Hold yourself together, bastard. It's just a boneyard filled with bones. What's that? It's Godward. What's he doing here? Here lies Edward's
Big floppy donkey dick.
What a fucking baby. Where was I?
Oh yeah.
Gotta find Smitty.
Fucking sexy ass.
Nope. 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 I've checked every headstone in the goddamn cemetery, and there's no Smitty here. Think maybe something SpongeBob said will give you some kind of clue.
Remember, licking people's buttholes is illegal under Vegas.
No, not that.
You'll never guess what I found in my pants last night.
It's your mother's tampons.
No, 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 no.
It was his hat, Mr. Boss. He was
The best drug dealer in the fucking whole world.
fucking shut up!
Motherfucker!
I'll never find the grave. Am I really gonna defile this grave for money?
Fuck yeah, baby! Oh, man!
It's beautiful. Come.
On my chest.
Hey, come on, Smitty, let go. Rest in peace, Smitty. I got the $12 million hat.
Hey man, that's my hat. Give it back.
What? Fuck no! Just crawl back into your hell, bitch boy. Go ahead, play dead or something.
I guess I'm gonna have to take it from you.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Nobody really cares.
You and what army?
Only the army of the living dead.
Rapists!
Holy fucking shit.
I seen this on the Late Show. You dildo shopping bastards! Hold me down and take turns nibbling on my innards. Then you
Suck my ass and call me a bitch.
You better not tell anyone about my smelly dick!
What the fuck?
We're not gay.
We just want the hat back.
Fuck you both!
Back up! Back up, I say!
Kill him!
Tally ho! Look at me, I'm Captain Jack Sparrow! You're falling apart!
Dickhead.
What the fuck is that?
Back to oblivion! Ho-ho!
So how's your sister?
All right,
Motherfuckers!
playtime's over! $12 million! I've got $12 million!
Motherfucker, they listen to them. They shit. They did everything.
Oh,
What up, you ass-faced bitches?
well, I got it! The rare Mountain Dew soda drink hat! Let's start the bidding at $12 million!
Yeah, like I give a fuck. What the fuck kind of a social life does this guy have? Hey, the poor sap's not kidding. Didn't you hear? They found a whole warehouse full of them. They're
Suck.
A horse's dick.
Let's give Mr. Ball Slapping a big hand, but clap slow because remember, he's a
fucking dumbass! Now that's worth $12 million. Hey kid, wait up! Eyes on first.
I'll give you
$700 billion.
Well,
such balls.